I just decided to let go of, because I feel like it's worth like letting go of. It's something that I can't just keep it, contain it, and I wanted to release it. Maybe they would like it and they will feel the same way as how I felt when I heard Queen for the first time, or like how I discovered my favorite song for the first time. It's something that I really cherish.
We had an amazing conversation with Ena Mori. She shared how her Japanese roots and classical training influenced her music, and how discovering Queen through her dad's mixtapes opened her up to new sounds. We also explored her songwriting process, how writing every day helps her stay creative and push boundaries. Ladies and gentlemen, Ena Mori. Ena, thank you very much for being on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I know you had to travel a very long distance to get to the studio, so I appreciate it.
Very long journey of tricycle, but very proud to have something near my residence.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me.
What are you up to now? What's going on? You just had a show, the Ena Matsuri show. So
Yeah.
what's going on right now in your career?
Ooh, what's going on with my career? Actually, that's a good question. Yeah, just really preparing for a lot of shows, upcoming shows, and rehearsing. I'm also writing a lot, new materials for me to release near future. So yeah, I've been busy with a lot of aspects in music.
Let's jump into that. Going to an Ena Mori show, it's an experience. It's so energetic. There's a lot going on. Where does that come from?
As a musician, I think we always try to look for a place where we could really be, vulnerable and express our art without feeling out of place in a sense. And we hope for that in every venue, but we never get to, it's very rare to find that just clicking place to perform. And yeah, I've always dreamed to have like a festival or some type of music live show that I've always wanted to make. Because I always like imagine, it would be nice if I had this, and then if I had that, that would be amazing. It would be perfect. But it never happened. So we just decided to do on our own, and we started last year actually, Ena Matsuri, to kind of promote my album as well. And I just introduced a bunch of my friends that are also artists as well, and we had a really good blast. So for this year, I decided to do similar things, but with a different concept, of course, because it will be interesting. It's like a little bit different vibe.
Okay, cool. So
Yeah.
Let's rewind a bit and talk about your influences. Obviously, the sound is so eclectic. There's so many different things that you take from different genres, right? So how did that happen? And in growing up, was there a certain type of music that you gravitated towards and that led you to make music like this?
The music journey of mine started when I was 6 years old. So I really started as a pianist. I did classical for 12 years, I think. So from starting 6 years old, I've been doing like semi legit classical pianist way of doing things, like applying to competitions and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed it. I loved classical, and that's really my roots. But I don't know, something, maybe puberty hit, and I just wanted to be cool and all, because all of my friends are listening to Avril Lavigne and I was listening to Schumann, and I'm like, that's not the way, So I think one of my biggest influence was when I gone through one of my dad's CDs. So my dad used to make CDs by himself.
Yeah, okay.
Because he liked to, have certain songs in his car.
Right.
And when
right.
we used to put CDs in the car, and he makes a little mixtape of his, I guess, latest song dad's latest CD, and with the flips and all of that. Yeah. Anyway, so one of the CD had a lot of different Western music, and I grew up in Japan, so I don't really listen to that time. I didn't really listen to a lot of Western music at that point, and when I discovered that CD, I was really mind blown, because all of the CDs I was listening to is really just one Chopin, prelude one, option one, these kind of things, which is amazing,
Yeah,
beautiful.
of course, yeah.
But it was such a shocking
It's a
thing
far
for
cry
me.
from the Western like song structures.
Right. It had Tupac in it. It had Biggie. It had like it's very Western music that was, and it really shocked my system in a sense where I really wanted to kind of discover more artists. And one of the artists I discovered was Queen. And when I heard Queen, it had similar elements that what I learned in classical.
Right.
But it was rock and roll, you know? And it was so mind-blowing to me at that time because, oh my gosh, I can do rock and roll by, you know, adding these classical elements that Queen has added. And that was really mind-blowing. So from there, I kind of went a little side lane for continuing classical, but, you know, exploring different music.
Now that you mentioned Queen, it explains a lot.
Yeah.
About the music.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
Now I get it. Okay, yeah. So if you don't mind, can we jump into your songwriting process for a bit? I know in your Instagram you're very open. You share like how you pick certain sounds and how you pick certain filters and whatnot. But can we talk about from the very beginning, from the very seed of a song? How does a song start with you?
I write every day, basically. I think.
Is that like a challenge, or is it?
I think it really is it is a challenge of mine, but I just don't. I want the songwriting to be part of my daily routine. So I do try to kind of sit behind the piano for at least maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes every day.
Also, just those small pockets of time.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
And it just really bread my. It's kind of like, you know, brushing teeth in a sense where I just want it to be a little bit more a daily thing for me because I do get in a rut a lot, and most of the time I can't really come up with songs, and you know, it's just gonna be mediocre and not really something that's so special, and that's really normal. But yeah, I try my best to whenever I'm looking for new materials, I try my best to collect as much as I can. So I do keep a notebook with me with all the just lines that I really like or something that I saw, because I really have bad memory. So I'd like to keep it somewhere stored. And whenever I want to open it, I'll open it and just collect from there. I think it depends on the artist, but I really gravitate towards melody. So I do tend to write melodies first. And when I like the melody, that's when I try to like pick some words into it to kind of mold together.
Fit the words into
yeah. Because there are some moods that, you know, even though it sounds great, it just doesn't, you know, feel great. Sure. And but I really do prioritize melody first and then words second. Yeah, and I think some artists have different, like the opposite, and I really respect that. I'm trying to challenge myself to write first.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's how I work. Yeah.
Okay, melody first, and then you fit the lyrics into the melody. Then how does it become like a fully formed song? Do you approach your band, or is it something that you create on your own?
It's a little bit different from how I worked before and now. Since it was pandemic, I do work with a producer, Tim, and we do make songs together. But during the pandemic, we only had options where we could just send each other's files, and which was actually a good challenge for me because, you know, there should be some type of structure before I send it over, you know. So that time, though, I was really challenging myself to have that structure first before I, you know, send it over to my producer and actually talk it through.
Right.
But now I feel like I'm more individualistic in a sense where like I have a clear form of what I really want.
So
in
you
the
know
song.
where you want the song to go and all
that. And it didn't really, you know, it was throughout the, you know, the season of how I practiced. But nowadays though, I think I'd like to pre-prod, I call it, but you know, I'd like to add elements that I really think speaks to the song. And I try my best to just form it as a song already. Okay. And then I will send it over to my producer another year to listen to it, and we have a good discussion. And yeah, like working with a good producer is really one thing that I really value a lot, because not only have another year to, you know, explore listening to, but also it will give you another idea of how to kind of develop that small idea, you know what I mean, that I had that I didn't think I have to develop on it. And I think it's just a good friction that we have. So that's how I usually make songs.
It's interesting that you use the word friction, because I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
how precious are those ideas for you? Like, and how far can Tim take it? Like, can he be brutal with his honesty, or like with that friction? And are there ever instances where you're like, no, but I like this song, let's do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, we do have like, well, I win.
Okay.
Usually. Sorry, Tim. I do win most of the time, but no, honestly, actually not true. He does have ideas that I thought it wouldn't work, and then throughout time, I realized that, oh my gosh, this is actually perfect. You know, so there are some, give and take in a sense, and I feel like we do have mutual respect with each other's artistry, that we not necessarily like the same things, but we know what we don't like in this particular song. And I think that's a really important thing to have within like the creative space. You don't really have to have like a good, what do you call that? A similar interest in both, but it will be nice to have a similar no-no, or like a rule break.
Right.
And I think that that's one thing that I really appreciate Tim having, because we can share that.
Okay, so speaking about limits, do you ever put limits on songs? Like, okay, I'm not, I mean, obviously you do put limits on songs, but do you do it as a challenge as well? Okay, let's try this. And I start with the lyrics first, or I start with just drums first, or do you ever do that as a creative challenge?
Yeah, I really try my best to do that, because I think the outcome is a lot different, even though you're the same artist and you have similar taste in everything, but it's just that starting from a drum is such a fresh thing, for example, and I love doing that. I do that constantly to kind of energize myself to think outside of what I'm thinking usually. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so let's jump a bit more. Let's talk about, obviously, you played some big shows South by Southwest where you got that delicious barbecue.
Yes, very nice.
You played in Japan. You just finished your residency with So Far Sounds.
Yeah.
One of those things for another artist would be amazing, but you did all those three things and you're not done yet. So, I mean, can you speak on how amazing that is? What you learned from those different experiences?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm still really shocked the fact that I was, able to do some amazing shows that, the opportunity that I got is something that, I don't take it for granted. It's something that, but I'm also proud of, because I know that I worked hard to achieve that, and it's something that I really take pride in. But it was just a surreal moment. It's even... It's small shows and big shows. It doesn't matter the size. It's really just how like these people that come up to you and felt the same way or felt something from the song or from the performance. Those are the things I really cherish the most. And the bigger the audience it gets, the amount of people that can feel that will increase. But even a small show that I did in London, for example, it was such a surreal moment, because, they don't know my culture that much. They don't know my story. I just showed up and I'm just an artist that just performed in that place. And for them to, come up to me and say these things where, I really felt your energy, and I really appreciated the performance. Those are the things that really keep me going. And I don't know, it's a surreal moment. It's a treat for artists. Yeah.
You said you're very proud of it. As I mentioned, I kind of stopped you.
It's with consent.
It's a common theme in some of the posts. You said, this is something I'm proud of. I wanted to ask you, when do you know that something like a piece of work, like a song or a lyric, is something that you're proud of? Is it a feeling, or is it like what's it like for you to be proud of something?
Basically, having something to be proud of is very important for artists, I think. It's the ultimate thing that it will complete your project, and having doubts and unsure feelings is something that will ultimately hinder the work to be done. And I really believe that having the security as an artist is such an important thing. And I feel like it should be vocalized to a lot of artists that feels the same way. Because I know it's really hard to be, I guess, proud of without, comparing with other people or comparing your work with other works of yours. It's really something that is a struggle for a lot. But being proud of something is ultimately something that will keep me going,
Right.
in a sense. And I guess like how would I know is, I think that's a really good question. I think because for me, I'm also asking myself how would I know when the work is done,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a feeling, I just know that this is enough.
Mhm.
And I think that's also one thing that I had to work on and learn throughout making music and writing songs. Because when I was starting out, I really didn't know when enough was enough. I keep changing it.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like this. I'll change
So
it.
you had to get the perfect
Yeah.
sound. Yeah. Okay.
But I think those are the seasons for that, so
Right.
that we know when this is perfect,
Right.
and it's ready to be sent to the people and be born in a
Right.
sense. Because for me, it's like when you just keep your work by yourself, it's just gonna sit there. It's not gonna be born, and it's not gonna breathe. And I think that once you let yourself go and put it out there and for people to be shared to, that's when the work starts breathing and growing.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah, I just like that feeling. So yeah, I'm still kind of struggling when to find the right, what do you call that? I guess the period to the whole project. It's getting easier now than before. Yeah, which is good.
And the thing is culturally, like Filipinos also, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in Japanese culture also, it's kind of passe. It's kind of wrong to be too proud about something, right? So I think maybe that's where the struggle is coming from. Also, do you agree or?
I think so. I think and ultimately being different is something that's kind of frowned upon.
There you go.
Especially how I grew up in a Japanese culture where when you stick out, people are gonna just shove it down, know. And it's something that I struggled to understand throughout my years of growing up, and I feel like that's one thing why I got drawn into Western music, because it was so expressive. Nothing wrong with Japanese music, and I love Japanese music. I grew up with it. I just had a stronger feeling of that expression when I heard so many of my idols in the Western music, and that really inspired me to do more than what I already know that time. Yeah.
You've also spoken about being your words, too cautious and shy. You even sent out a message to people that for all those other people that are shy like I am and or too cautious like I am.
Yeah.
How'd you break out of that shell? You even talked about it now, but how did you break out of that?
It's funny because like I feel like I still am in the shell. Okay. Currently, I still feel like I'm still in the shell. It's just that I think for a particular like music, I just decided to let go of, because I feel like it's worth like letting go of. It's something that I can't just keep it, contain it, and I wanted to release it. I wanted people to hear it, and maybe they would like it, and they will feel the same way as how I felt when I heard Queen for the first time, or like how I discovered my favorite song for the first time. It's something that I really cherish, that experience. It's a big thing to ask, but if somebody can feel that way with my music, that is more than I asked for. But that's really with music. I feel like I still have some, I think I'm very cautious when it comes to other things. Then I have to work on that.
We're glad you broke out of that shell. To a certain extent, brought you to South by Southwest, brought you to Japan, London. Speaking of which, can you share with us like maybe a good glory story, a good maybe a good anecdote from one of those shows? Not all, but did a moment stand out from one of those shows?
Ooh. I think one thing I can think of is my first show in Japan ever. Actually, no, it's not my first show. I think it's the second show that I did in Japan, but my first show in Tokyo. So I grew up near Tokyo. I never had a show or anything, any sort of that until that day. And it was so shocking because I haven't really promoted my songs in Japan physically, and I haven't really been active to do shows in Japan and all of that. But when I heard them singing my songs for the first time ever, it was such a surreal moment, because like, how do you guys know? Like, how did you find out?
Okay.
Right? And it's just, as an artist that just really, I'm still, starting out and still figuring my audiences and all of that. It was such a surreal moment that people knew the lyrics and the people knew my songs and they bought my album and all of that. And it's just, and they speak different languages. It's really
I'm getting goosebumps for
I
you.
know. It's something that I'd never in the million years, expected from people. And when that was possible, it was, it was such a surreal moment. And I'm just so grateful to be able to experience that as an artist. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're down to our last few questions. I wish we had
Okay.
more time, but what's going on with Ena? Any new releases? What should the fans expect?
Well, I've been working on so many things, but mainly I would like to promote that I am having a few shows outside of the Philippines. I'm doing South by Southwest, Australia this year. I did South by Southwest last year in Austin and ate a lot of Terry Black's barbecue. For this year, I'm going to Australia, and it's my first time actually to Australia, and I haven't explored the music scene there, so I'm very excited to be able to kind of, present Filipino music,
Let's
and
go.
it's gonna be awesome. So I'm very excited for that South by South. It's gonna be on October 15. It's gonna start in October 14th, like a weekly weekend event. So it will be very awesome. And I'm also performing in Japan, in Fukuoka, actually, Beppu. It's an onsen place. I don't know if you've had
Oh, really?
onsen.
Yeah, they never let me inside.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Stickers. Yeah, they're very sensitive. But
Yeah.
I think there are some,
Some,
opened places. But basically, it's kind of like a hot spring spree. Like, it's a very famous place there. And there's a festival called Iyudana Festival in Beppu. There will be a lot of lineups that are kind of all over the place in a good way. There are so many artists that's performing that are so different from each other. Yeah, it's just
That's cool.
different, and there's comedian as well. So it's such a different type of festival that I'm very excited about. So very excited for that, and stay tuned on my music. I'm writing new materials, so there will be new ones coming up soon.
Alright.
I just released a recent single. It's called Trust Me. It's out on Spotify. It's about having to beg for somebody to trust you. And I think it's a fun song. So I hope you could listen to it
So
as well.
even strangers that send DMs.
Yeah,
trust
exactly. Just trust the process, Even no, that's not really a good message.
Not a good example, no.
Actually block them.
Not a good example.
But just having to kind of have that trust from somebody. It's something that I don't take it for granted, and sometimes I just want not to be liked, but to be trusted. It's one of the highest honor to have from somebody, And as young adults, I feel like a lot of people are looking for that, looking for being that trustworthy person, especially when you're unpredictable, and ultimately trusting yourself for every process is really something that I feel like a lot of people would feel the same way. So I hope they will like it
That's
and
great.
listen. Yeah.
Right. Check it out. So, and in the Able podcast or on the Able podcast, we like
Yeah.
to share pragmatic and practical advice for, as you mentioned, young adults or young musicians, maybe
Yeah.
some musicians that are just starting out, or maybe some musicians that are already long in the game but are
Yeah.
looking for fresher ideas. So we like to end on that note. So can you share, any piece of advice, pragmatic or creative or anything that you'd like to share with our viewers?
To all the upcoming artists that's really thinking to do something within the creative bubble, I hope that this will be like a turning point where just do what you think is cool and not what other people think is cool. Just do things that you think it's awesome, because at the end of the day, nobody cares. You're the only one that's gonna be the biggest fan of your music or your your creation. So be the biggest fan of yours, and be yourself. And that's such a hard, it's such a hard thing to do. It's so easy to say, but yeah, that will be my advice. And to the people that's listening, thank you so much. I can't do anything. This couch would not be here, and I wouldn't be sitting down here if it wasn't for you guys. So thank you so much, and hopefully you'll enjoy my music continually. Yeah.
All right. And on that note, domo arigato. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Domo arigato.